Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, whatever time this video finds you. It's your boy Jay, and we are now in the month of December. This means Gogmazios is dropping this month. Actually, a little over 2 weeks as of the recording of this video. And with that is going to be coming various improvements and weapon balancing, okay? And on Twitter they actually kind of put buffs in parentheses, so they're gonna be focusing more on buffs, but I prefer to use weapon balancing because some weapons don't exactly need a buff, they just need some tweaks, right? Or they can get to a better state with some tweaks rather than straight up outright a buff. But that's what this video is going to be about. We're going to be talking about some of the things I want to see as far as weapon balancing and improvements that I want to see in Title Update 4. Now that we know that it's coming, let's talk about it, and let's have this be a more discussion type video. So it should be short, but we all know I can yap about Monster Hunter. It should be short, but the real content is going to be you guys hitting the comment section, let me know if I missed a mark, or maybe a different weapon that I didn't talk about here, or whatever. Just hit the comments down below. I'll do my best to reply to every comment that hits this video. So with that being said, let's dive into what I want to talk about today, starting with guarding and the way shields work in this game. So recently it has been discovered that there are situations when using the guard skill, not guard up, but guard, where you'll get less pushback from certain attacks, where using guard you will get less knockback if you just do a regular guard, which takes less skill to execute than a perfect guard. But if you perfect guard, you'll get more knockback despite having the guard skill maxed, right? So then this leads to situations where the best option is actually to just do a regular guard and not a perfect guard, which in my mind sounds backwards. There should be no situations in which just doing the regular guard can net you a better outcome than landing a perfect guard, right? Because the perfect guard is the harder thing to do. It requires more timing, requires more skill. So with guard being a skill, why doesn't it work on perfect guard? You know what I mean? That's kind of weird. Now, all this being said, I am not a lance or gun lance or sword and shield charge blade main, right? But I am going to be talking about a couple of these weapons. I do dabble in all of the weapons in Monster Hunter, but I am not a super specialist. You guys know hammer is my thing, and I'm actually really happy with where the hammer has ended up after the buffs. So yeah, but Chaos Slayer has a great video talking about this phenomenon here, and he will go into much more detail than I will go here. But yeah, I just want them to tweak the way, I guess, perfect guarding interacts with the skill guard, so that when you land those perfect guards, you know what I'm saying, and you got the guard skill on, you should not get pushed back, and you should be able to follow up with whatever you want to follow up after you land your perfect guard, which is gonna lead to the first weapon I kind of want to talk about today, and that's Charge Blade, right? So with perfect guards being less than the normal guard when you have guard up, weapons like Charge Blade are going to suffer a lot. Why? Because Charge Blade has a lot of things where after a perfect guard, then you can follow up into a specific attack or a specific mode. For example, Savage Axe. That's how you get to Savage Axe mode without doing a focus strike. But with the 9 stars now and the speed of the monsters, they're gonna have less wounds for you to go into Savage Axe mode, and then you need to land a perfect guard, which is less than great. If you've got the guard on, you're gonna get knocked back, and then it takes you a while to get into Savage Axe mode after the guard, because your hunter has to slide, after getting hit, because guard doesn't work with the perfect guard. But it's the only way to get to Savage Axe mode if you don't have a wound to take advantage of. So you see how oh, okay, that's one facet of the Charge Blade that's kind of suffering, right? I mean, there's been a lot of chatter around the MH space where hey, Charge Blade is kind of and I tend to agree, because partially the perfect guard thing, right? Also, another thing about Charge Blade in this game, where you can use perfect guard to skip the AED so that you can do an SAED, right? In this game you have to do an AED before you do an SAED, but through perfect guarding you can skip the AED required to do the SAED. Now you got to do all that to get to SAED, and then when you land it, it feels like the damage is not really worth the risk and the reward for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if you do it from neutral, you got to go AED, then SAED. These 9-star monsters are too damn fast for that, okay? You're not going to make it to SAED most of the time unless you got a knockdown, a trap, or whatever. But trying to do it in neutral based on, like, you know, a monster attack. But with these 9-stars, like I said, they're faster. Their cooldowns are shorter. So by the time you finish AEDing into an SAED, the monster's just about ready to hit you, and you may not even make it to the SAED. And then by the time you make it to the SAED, the damage really ain't really there, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, damn, maybe SAD needs another buff, or we need another way to skip the follow-up, or another way to skip AED into SAD, or something, or just speed up Charge Blade in general to match the pace of the 9-stars, right? Like, Charge Blade felt pretty damn strong in the beginning, when the monsters were slower, but there's a clear like line in the sand, right? Like Title Update 2 and before, and Title Update 2 and after, where like, okay, on these weaker monsters that move a little slower, that are a little weaker, where wounds show up often, Charge Blade feels pretty good. But now we're here, we're in a post 9-star world. We got Tempered Laggies, we got Tempered Regios, Savage Omega is not really Monster Hunter, but is in Monster Hunter, and he moves too damn fast for Charge Blade to do its thing really well, right? So yeah, Charge Blade needs a second look. It needs something. It needs maybe some speed, maybe, you know, some of the stuff with what I talked about with Perfect Guarding before will help it quite a bit. And then also like Rapid Morph in general as a skill doesn't feel quite as good as it used to in Sunbreak when it was introduced, right? So it's like, Charge Blade needs something. Hit me in the comments if you agree with me with Charge Blade needs something. And then, you know, now that I brought up Rapid Morph, Switch Axe. Switch Axe doesn't need a whole lot, but Switch Axe's problem is if you ain't doing FRS, full release slash, you ain't doing nothing. That's a problem. I feel like it's over centralized. It's full release slash or nothing. Can we buff up the rest of the move set so that maybe FRS is not just the only thing to do? Like, that's kind of what I think Switch Axe needs. It doesn't need a whole lot, right? It just needs for the rest of the kit to feel good, right? So yeah, there's that with Switch Axe. Want to talk about Lance now, right? Lance would also benefit from the thing I talked about earlier with Guard, but Lance in general, man, I think it needs one of two things. Either it needs more damage per poke, or more speed. When you look at like the speed run chart, which is not the best thing to look at when you're trying to rank a weapon or whatever, but you know, as the Arch Tempereds come out, as new things come out in title updates, and you know, speed run comes out, and you know, I think Rage Gaming goes over like, hey, these are the fastest runs, and they chart out all the data and everything. Consistently, Lance is at the bottom. That's an issue, okay? It's okay for a weapon to be at the bottom in maybe 1 or 2 monsters that doesn't have like a good matchup. For example, my hammer does not match up very well with New Udra. It just doesn't, okay? However, hammer matches up pretty damn well with something like a Jarrakan, right? Because it's easy to offset a lot of those attacks with the new offsets we got, blah, 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 blah. So if you were to chart out speed runs and, you know, which weapons do best against maybe New Udra, then maybe hammer would be like, it's at the bottom of the chart. It's just a bad matchup. But then when you chart out something like a Jarrakan or something like Arkveld, hammer would be closer to the top of the chart because it's able to offset a lot of the stuff, and, you know, that's what it's really good at in this game, blah, 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 blah. But what I'm getting at is Lance always being at the bottom of the chart. You shouldn't really have one weapon that so definitively lags behind the other weapons when it comes down to it. You know what I'm saying? So I want Lance to either get more speed so that it doesn't take as long to execute the poke, and then whatever finisher of your choice, or more damage per poke. Like if you want it to be slower, that's fine, Capcom. Make the pokes hurt a bit more so that they could keep up with everybody else, right? Because consistently being at the bottom of the poll, no matter what the matchup is not feeling good. And then also on top of that, shielding, which I talked about at the beginning of this video, isn't really working all that well, right? So a lot of what you're able to do with Lance comes from landing a perfect block and a follow-up, but the perfect block is always knocking you back, and then your follow-ups are slow and it takes a while to get through it, and blah 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 blah. So yeah, I think Lance needs a second look, needs some balancing. Let me know in the comment section down below if I'm hitting the mark with how Lance is feeling and whatnot. Let's talk about it. But yeah, I definitely think Lance needs a look at. It needs either some speed or some more damage, or maybe a little bit of both. Maybe a little bit of both. Let me know in the comment section down below how you feeling about what I'm saying here about Lance. And then another, like, I guess group of weapons I want to talk about is ranged weapons, bow guns and bow. Now, if you're using the correct ammo type against the monster, like the elemental ammos, bowgun does the damn thing. You know what I'm saying? Bowgun can be really damn good, which is great. But here at you know, post title update 2 world with the 9 stars, sometimes it can kind of feel like the risk versus the reward is not there when it comes to some of the ranged options, right? So, you know, when you're using a bow or a bow gun, you take more damage because, you know, you should be shooting the monster from further away, blah blah blah. That makes sense. But damn, sometimes it feels like you're gonna get one shot from a lot of these higher tier monsters, you know, like the 9.5s and stuff like that. Sometimes it feels like, damn, this is a lot of one-shot material for not even being that much stronger than my Blade Master counterparts, which, you know, that was always the trade-off for ranged weapons. Is like, okay, you're gonna get hit harder, you're gonna die a lot more, but because you're more of a paper mache, like you're more fragile, you can deal a whole lot of damage if you can manage your distance well, right? You can deal probably more damage than your Blade Master counterparts. It really is that glass cannon type of thing, right? Like, damn, it's super easy to die, but also it's very easy to output a whole lot of damage if you can manage staying alive. But in this game, from my experience, I could be wrong, let me know in the comment section down below. Like I said, the goal of this is to talk about it. It kind of feels like, okay, I still kind of feel like a glass cannon, but like, am I doing that much more damage than I would if I had just picked the Blade Master weapon and kind of, you know, got in there and got hit a little bit more, but my survivability would be better? I don't know, something about the way bowguns work, I feel needs to be tweaked, but I don't exactly have how to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not as like, oh yeah, just buff blah blah blah, but then you get to this idea where like, damn, heavy bowgun is just too damn strong again, you know, which is why I think they ended up the way they ended up here, because that has been a thing for a long time. Damn, bowguns are strong. Oh, they're so strong, so strong, so strong. So Capcom was like, all right, we've been making them too strong, let's peel them back a little bit. But maybe they've peeled them back a little too much. But now we've got the strong monsters with the 9-star, and it's like, need some looking at, maybe, right? So definitely want to take a second look at ranged, and yeah, Lance needs some help, Charge Blade needs some help, Switch Axe needs some kind of rebalancing, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, so that the rest of the kit kind of feels as good as it should. Ooh, one thing before I head out of here that I did forget to mention with the Charge Blade is perhaps give Charge Blade an offset attack when in Axe mode. It bothers me that Charge Blade has very little defensive options in Axe mode, despite Axe mode being the best with Savage Axe, but you don't have access to guard. Why not give it an offset? Maybe if you land an offset attack in Axe mode, you can unlock Savage Axe some way, and then that way you can maybe not rely on guard as much as you do with Charge Blade. But if they fix guard, then maybe relying on guard isn't a problem as much anymore. But I just wanted to say that before I head out of here. But those are like the main things that I'm thinking about when it comes to who I want to see in this balance patch. So yeah, I did my best to keep it short, but we're here at almost the 15-minute mark. So hey, let me know in the comment section how you're feeling. Is there a weapon I didn't talk about that you think I should have talked about? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'll do my best to reply to as many comments as possible, because, you know, that's the goal of this one, is for us to talk it out before we see patch notes, right? Like, how is everybody feeling about their weapons? What kind of buffs do you guys want to see for your weapons? Let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, people, happy hunting. Peace.